Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to the behind the scenes book club for The Survivors by Carolyn Mitchell. Today, we have the absolute pleasure of being with Caroline Mitchell. As Shar is our behind the scenes wizard today, she is going to bring on Caroline for me, and we will jump straight into this book. Hello, Caroline.
Oh,
Thank you so much
hello.
for coming to hang out with us.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
We are so glad to have you. We've been talking about this book non-stop. We kicked off our read along, I think, on the 1st of December, so it would have been publication day for you.
Yeah.
And honestly, the direct messages that we have on Instagram for this book behind the scenes have been kind of the busiest that I have seen in a very long time. People have had a lot of brilliant thoughts about this book.
Oh, good. I'm so pleased to hear it. Yeah, I hopefully have raised lots of discussion points.
Discussion points is definitely one thing that you have done. So listen, team who are just filing in now, I know you guys have been on our read along, and I know that you guys have already read the book, but just to reiterate, so that I do not get in trouble from anyone who is listening, we will be discussing spoilers tonight. So if you have not finished The Survivors, if you have not completed the book in its entirety, and I don't mean, oh, I've still got one or two pages left. I mean, no. Do not come for us until you have 100% finished this book. Because in preparation for coming to chat to you tonight, Caroline, I reread the last half of the book this morning
Oh,
just to make sure that I completely was refreshed and completely re-understood. And I was still having chats with some of our readers in the DMs going, oh my God, and then that happened. But then there was like a second part of the twist. This was the first book that I have ever read by you. And I was saying to the girls, to the team earlier, I cannot wait to jump into your backlist. I didn't realize quite how extensive
yeah.
your backlist is.
Yeah. I've been keeping busy.
So you've got, hang on, I've written down, you've got Detective Sarah Noble, Aaliyah Baker,
Uh,
Ruby Preston, DI Amy Winter, DC Jennifer Knight, at plus eight standalones, of which The
yeah.
Survivors is one.
Well, I'm currently writing my Elia Baker. That's a new Penguin novel that will be out in 2026. So I'm currently editing it. So that's a future one set in Lincoln where
Hmm.
I live. But yeah, I have written a lot of books. I've been 23 books, I think, altogether in just about 10 years since I left the police. So I've been busy.
That's insane. You've been turning them out. When I think of authors who have kind of written around 23 books, I think of, Lisa Jewell, Adele Parks, but those authors have also taken 20 years to do it.
I love writing. I love what I do. So I've always got my laptop with me. As I say, when my family's watching TV in the evening, I'm sitting there with my laptop because I just enjoy it. It's like writing the book you want to read. I know it's a corny sentence, but it is. I just get so much enjoyment from adding the twists and getting to know the characters. So it's a labor of love. I'm very lucky.
Amazing. And honestly, I think it comes across in the book as well. Obviously, I've only read The Survivors with your backlist lined
Mm.
up and ready to go. But you really actually must love what you do because this book
Yeah.
it just fills with like crime thriller excitement.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, I do. And I quite miss the police as well. I miss the exciting parts of it. So I get to relive it all because even my psychological thrillers have crimes in them. There's a lot of them,
Hmm.
some crimes going on and murders and things because I just enjoy that side of it. So I guess that's my way of reliving the best parts of being in the police.
Sure. So let's talk about that a little bit. When did you decide that you were going to make the jump from being a full-time police officer and move into the slightly safer world, I think, of
Yeah, I was a police detective and I had four kids at home. I used to get up at 5:30 every morning. It was very, very long hours. Sometimes I wouldn't come home till, it could be 12 or even a 16-hour shift if it was a really long case because you need that continuity. You can't just deal
hmm
with a victim of a serious crime and say, oh, try now, I'm off. Here you go. You can tell someone else all over again. So you'd have to stay from start to finish. And then I moved on from it being a detective. I was working as a detective in the domestic abuse unit and it was very rewarding work, but it was also I got burnt out a lot because it was harrowing, it
Mm.
was hard work, and at some point, I don't know, I just wanted to write, and I just did it in my spare time, and I was very, very fortunate. I got a publishing deal. I didn't have an agent at the time, so I used to write on the train on the way to work. As I said, get up at 5:30, and I'd be sitting for an hour on the train. I'd just bring my laptop and I'd write on my laptop on the way to work, and I'd write on the way home. And I always managed to squeeze in time to write. So yeah, Bookouture was a publisher. We were just starting off at that point, and I was very fortunate. I got signed with them. Then I got my agent, and things just went from strength to strength, thankfully. But yeah, my colleagues used to laugh. I'd say to them, "Oh, can I use that in my books?" You know, when I was still in the police, I didn't leave straight
Mm.
away. I didn't leave until the books were doing really well, and I was successful, and I was assured that I'd be okay to leave such a secure job in the police. And then I just decided to make the jump. But my colleagues are always an inspiration. I know a lot of them still read my books, which is great, and they're always at the back of my mind when I'm writing my stories. So yeah, it's great to get to relive it again, and I feel very fortunate in that way.
Oh my gosh, I love, and that's like not super traditional either to have a publisher first and
Mm.
then kind of retroactively secure the agent. That must have been a huge whirlwind for you.
Yeah, and what an agent, my best agent, my dream agent as well, which was really great.
Hmm.
And as I say, I've been predominantly a digitally first publisher in the UK. I'm in bookshops in all different countries throughout the world. But funny enough, in the UK, I've always kind of predominantly went digital because I'm a bit of a prolific writer. But then the idea for my Elia Baker series came into my head, and I just thought, oh my God, this has got to go to the shops. It's about time now. This needs to be a traditional book
Hmm.
in the UK. And I want to see it, and because I'm Irish, I want to see it all in Ireland as well. And so we went for it, and my agent loved the book, and yeah, I got a great deal, and it's all very exciting. But these other books that I've written as well have been such a joy to write because I've been able to, get them out as quickly as I need to. But now
Hmm.
I'm ready for the next phase of my career. But it's so heartwarming to see all the great comments, especially on Instagram, and see how much people are enjoying it. Because I think as an author, it's quite an isolated way to live
Hmm.
sometimes. And I'm sitting in my office, and you forget sometimes that people are actually out there reading and enjoying your books. So it's really great to get direct feedback in that way. It's lovely, rather than just the Amazon reviews. To see videos of people reading and enjoying it has been brilliant.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah, honestly, some of the read-alongers, the content that they've made and the theories that they were suggesting the whole way along has really just kept everything really like buoyant the whole way through. But let's dive into it. You mentioned kind of the isolation of you as a writer, but let's talk about the isolation within the book and of Mora. Where on earth did you start when the seed of this story started with you? There are so many elements, so many layers. What came first?
It's well, Maura came first. I just had
Yeah,
this idea of this woman. I was sitting atop on this hill, looking down on all and there's a line that I really loved, and she's talking about Doolin and all the bastards that live in it. I hope it's okay to swear, but I just love that line so much
100%.
because it just really set the scene for what she thought of them all, of how much she
Hmm.
hated them, but yet was such a big part of them. And it just that scene just came into my head that she was just watching because as you say, I am Irish. I love using Ireland as settings for my books. I just they're so layered and there's so many characters, and I just had
Hmm.
this vision of her watching and her nails digging into the ledge of the window. And yeah, so I'm always very character led, and I'm always let my characters lead me throughout the story. I mean, I'll plot so much, but it always changes the better I get to know the characters. And Maura in my head was such a star and so enjoyable to write.
God, yeah, this like Bates-esque character, and then like it seems like such a cliche for me to say, but this house, this mountain, this road, they are all characters within this novel too. They
Yeah.
are so important, and the way that Finn and Mora move around the space and live, that was one of the most like haunting, atmospheric, like panic-inducing characters in this book. Absolutely
Mm.
wild.
And with Finn, it was very personal to me because my mum was a twin, and my mum passed away. My husband's a twin, my sister's a twin. There's a lot of twins in my family, so I love
Wow,
writing.
okay.
Yeah, I love. I thought I'd have them, but thankfully I didn't have twins. But there's a lot of twins. But when my mum passed away, my aunt was still alive, and they're identical twins. And that part of the book where it says that she would look at her and sometimes it just allow herself to imagine her mum was still alive. I used to
Hmm.
do that, and she'd be walking in front of me, and I just for because I missed her so much, and I'd give her a hug, and I'd almost feel like I was hugging my mum, and that was something that always really meant something to me. And I thought I'm going to have to put this into the book, and a lot of authors do that. They put their personal emotions and experiences, and that was something I felt very strongly that I wanted to have in the book, and it explains a lot the whole twin thing that when Finn was drawn, why she was drawn there,
Hmm.
why she kind of stuck with Maura as long as she did, because she just felt like she was experiencing so much grief and she missed her mom so much. But then, of course, she came to discover that her twin was nothing like her mom. Thankfully, not in real life. My mom's twin was lovely. Very not
Ca-
like Laura. But yeah, it was a great inspiration. The whole twin thing really inspired me for the book as well.
Twins are such like a brilliant trope to explore in horror and in crime fiction because they do have
Mm.
that kind of like eeriness about
Yeah.
them, particularly identical twins. And I do feel appropriately, qualified to say this. My mum is also an identical
Oh,
twin,
no way.
and my stepdad is also an identical twin.
Yeah.
So there's lots of doppelgangers around, and I totally see what you mean about like thank God both my mom and her sister are still
Yeah.
around currently, but one day when one of them isn't,
Yeah. Oh, I
that's
know.
going to be very, very strange.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
exactly.
of course, in your book, that is kind of where we start. Finn's
Mm.
mother, well, mother,
Yeah.
Daisy. I feel like I have to be very careful what I say, but I actually don't have to be careful
Yeah.
what I say because we have all read this book. So Finn and the woman that she has was raised by, Daisy, has just passed away. So she goes back to Doolin to see Maura, and of course has this horrific car accident on the way there, and that's where we meet Catherine. Now,
Mm.
Catherine represents another brilliant trope of this kind of, which we don't learn till a little bit later on, but that like controlling gangster parent, like this is our life, this is who we are, this is the kind of people that we have to be. And I know that you write like criminal underworld fiction in your other authorly
Mm.
realms. Were you always going to bring that in here?
No, no, that came in very last minute. She was just a regular photographer, and I thought, how can I spice this up a little bit more? Just
Hmm.
bring in another element of danger. And I thought, oh, I know, I have a really dangerous family at the side of it, and there is horror family ties as well then to explore, which was
Hmm.
nice and meaty for me, and I really got a lot of that, and I really enjoyed writing about her mum and the dynamics between them and how Catherine almost became more like her mum at the end. And yeah, it was great. So, but no, that storyline definitely came in very, very much near the end. And then I kind of rewrote it to fit. And yeah, I felt it worked. I enjoyed it.
Oh my gosh, like the fact that it does kind of come full circle with Catherine's story really works for me. Like it felt like you knew that that was going to happen from the first page. Like how many drafts do you typically write of a story like this?
Well, I'll write the full story out and then I'll self-edit it a couple of times.
Hmm.
And when nobody looks at it, it just goes straight to my editor. And that's really quite terrifying. A lot of authors have partners or people that would look at
Hmm.
their work before they send them out. I never do that because I just want to send it straight to my editor. I don't know why. And I do that. And then I'm terrified, wait to hear back. But thankfully, so no, not that many drafts, I suppose. I just work on it as I go. I'll write a chapter, but then the next day I'll go back to it and I'll fix it again. And I'll keep doing that until I get to the end. And then I'll give it another big edit and really fix it. And then obviously it goes through the editing process with my editor
Hmm.
and we'll develop it from there as well. But oh, it's great fun.
Do you ever send any of your early copies to your ex-police colleagues?
No, no, they tend to like to buy it, which is lovely. They
Yeah.
support me very much, which is really great. So yeah, they buy it and then I'll hear something on social media or something, which is really nice. And I know one of my ex-DIs was saying, "Oh, I read all your books," and I was like, "No, because procedure is a lot of creative license. If I wrote real police procedure in these books, it'd be very three times longer and a lot more boring." So I was like, I had to say to him, yeah, but just allow for the facts. Don't be rolling your eyes. Allow the creative license. But yeah,
Yes,
my
remember
colleagues,
that I know that this is
yeah,
not how this
yeah,
works.
yeah, definitely. You have to.
So let us jump into this kind of mad, really the last 30 pages of the book. You go into reveal after reveal, and then actually, really, there are kind of like sub reveals, aren't there?
Mm.
Like, zooming out to start with, do you feel like a good crime thriller has to have a reveal or a twist? Do you think that
No,
that's like a
no,
key?
not at all. I think that's just my style. I think that's just
Hmm.
how I roll. But definitely, no, it doesn't have to. Everyone writes differently, and whatever works
Yeah.
for them, you know. I have a very short attention span. I think that's where they come in. And if I'm editing a book and I'm thinking, oh, this is dipped a bit, especially you get this kind of saggy middle, which a lot of authors will talk about, and you think, right, we need to really throw in a grenade into this now and change everything again, or bring in a new character, or bring in a twist. And then that, to me, that just keeps the pages turning, which is ultimately what every author wants. They don't want
Hmm.
people to put the book away and forget about it and not pick it up for a week. You really want people to be keep turning that pages or be thinking about it or listening to the audiobook. I love an audiobook. I know it's a good audiobook when I'm in my car and I stop the car, but I don't get out of the car because I'm
Yeah.
still listening to the audiobook. And my husband comes out, he says, "Why are you still sitting in the car?" I'm like, "Shh, I'm still listening." And that's the type of book everyone wants to write, I think. And that's my aim, really.
I'm exactly the same with a dog walk. Like even
Mm.
if it's raining, the dog walk will just get longer and longer, and we'll just go around the block again, and we'll just keep going.
Yeah,
I'm at a really
exactly.
good bit. Listen, team, I'm just jumping into the chat box. I see you, Stacey. I didn't know you were an identical twin. That's wild. I feel like there are more of you around than I kind of give credit for. Lots of people in the chat box saying yes, we'll be jumping into your backlist.
Great.
Oh, okay. Amy has a great question. Amy says, were there any alternative plots to the book that you may have had in the works at one point?
Yeah, no, I have a big board. I'll see if I can show you. I've got this big board, you see, and it's all
Mm,
post-it notes, and that's the way
wow.
that's how I plot my books. I have different color. Sorry, it's a bit dark, but I've got different colors for different characters, and yeah, I tend to plot them pretty well. So I think the plot's pretty nailed, but the twists and everything comes in though. That's what's different.
Hmm.
As I get to know the characters, the twists improve, or the new twist might come in. But I do plot it, but I think to myself, well, the plot's not set in stone, but it's just guide rails. So I don't get
Hmm.
lost. I did that in the early days of writing, and I thought never again. Halfway through the book, I was completely lost. I went off on a tangent, whereas this keeps me in line and keeps my feet
Yeah.
on the ground to a certain extent. And then the characters can dictate the surprises and the changes. But no, generally, once I get the idea, I kind of know where I'm going with it.
That sounds like a dream way of writing. Like you've got this framework to like control the fun, but
Yeah,
your creativity still gets to like work
yeah.
through those bits.
Exactly. And I love using post-it notes because I can, if the chapter changes, I can just scrunch it up and just write a different
Yeah.
one. So it's a good way of keeping track.
Okay, so one of the questions that I asked our readers earlier was which was the biggest twist that you were the most shocked and surprised by? Do you have a feeling as to which twist you think is the most like
The
surprising?
twins, maybe Maura having the twins, maybe. Because I did kind of lead them down the path with that a bit. And then I changed it at the end as she actually had
A
twins.
bit,
Maybe
a
that's it.
bit. Caroline, you led us down so many paths. And you know what? It was Aiden. And
Oh,
I think
yes.
like Aiden being the twin, but also then what goes on to happen with Aiden.
Mm.
And am I pronouncing it correctly? Shantana?
Yeah, yeah,
So his whole character, I was watching him from the start because I was like, you know what? You wouldn't be here if this weren't critical.
yeah.
There aren't very many characters in this
Yeah,
book.
that's right. Yeah.
So you must have something to do here. Like there must be, and you
Mm,
know what? I was also watching Geraldine. I was like,
mm,
look, you are here and you have a name and a story. So
mm.
what's your going to be your thing here? Talk to us about Aiden. Like, how did he come to you, and how did he unravel?
Yeah, I just loved writing Aidan. He reminds me of a lot of Irish people that I know, so
Okay.
helpful and so friendly and so giving and they really are like that. You know, I don't know if any of the readers here from Ireland, but they'll know. I mean, when I go home to Ireland, I forget everyone says hello to you. You don't even know them. You're walking down the street, especially in the country, and everyone just says hello to you and everyone helps you out and it's just lovely and I
You
enjoy
know what?
writing.
Maybe that's what made him more suspicious because I'm
Yeah,
so London. I'm so Southern, and
yeah,
I'm like, hang
yeah.
on a minute, why are you so nice?
Helpful. Yeah, no, they really are like that. And they'll do your shopping and help you out in any way they can. But yeah, I did want to, I wasn't sure what to do with him. The twist about him pushing his wife off the cliff, yeah, that came in last minute as well. And I thought, oh gosh, that's quite good because his dad Daisy says at some point that he's not right in the head. Jimmy's not right in the head. And then I
Hmm.
think, God, if he had Jimmy for a father and Maura as a mother, poor old Aidan didn't stand a chance
Yeah.
to do something. So that's how that came in. But also, I needed someone as a sounding board for Finn as well, someone she could
Yes.
talk to and do a little bit of investigation with. So, yeah, that was good fun to write.
And as it was happening, honestly, I was like, are they gonna get together? Are we gonna have like a small romantic subplot here?
I know, I
And then
almost did. So the readers would go, "Oh no!" And they think,
yeah,
brother and sister. I thought, "Oh, I better not push it too far."
you say I better not push it too far. Honestly, the list of potentially like triggering elements that happen in this book is wild. And honestly, those are my some of my favorite books. So
Yeah.
for anyone in the chat box who needs a reminder, Mora, and Caroline, please feel free to jump in because you are going to be the best explainer of this. Mora pretended to be Daisy and had sex with Jimmy. Then she
Mm,
fell pregnant with the twins, one
mm,
of which is Aidan. Now, the other twin you think is going to be Finn. And for a
mm,
couple of pages, maybe you really think she's going to be Finn. And
mm,
then you realize that actually Mora has in fact killed second twin.
mm.
Then Daisy comes back and finds Mora with another child.
Yeah.
Daisy then takes said child and raises her on her own. This character then becomes Finn, who now has her own child. Tell me about the Jimmy character, because like you said, him plus Mora is madness. And Mora's
Mm.
backstory, we get so much like insight into her and her grandparents, her parents. Where did Jimmy come in, and how did you know that that was going to spread out that way?
Yeah, I think when I write, sometimes it's like a series on TV. That's how I see. I know
Hmm.
some authors are different. I know authors who have aphantasia who don't actually see it at all in their mind. It's like a condition. They see it in the words in the page. They don't actually imagine it. Whereas I
Mm.
think I have hyper aphantasia, whatever it's called. My imagination is very, very strong, and I can see it, I can smell it, I can feel the whole story is in my head as if I am watching it on the television. And he just
Mm.
came in, he just did. And again, back to the whole thing, twin thing, the fascination of that. Could she get away with pretending to be her sister, but also
Yeah.
how he'd feel afterwards. And Maura is so oblivious to so
Mm.
many things. I mean, I didn't write her as having autism. Now, I can say autism because I have personal experience within my family
Hmm.
quite a lot. So I can say that but I didn't want to say she was an autistic character because it's such a big scale. And I
Mm.
don't ever want to upset anyone because everyone's different and everyone's on a different range and different scale. But she is so oblivious, especially to humor as well. You might see there's some
Mm.
jokes in the book and she just didn't get it. Like when Geraldine talks about her husband, the small jockeys have big whips, and she's like, "Oh, he didn't ride horses. I didn't know what she was on about." But
Hmm.
obviously, it was a bit of a smutty joke. So she's oblivious to everything. She couldn't see Jimmy's hurt and his
Yeah.
pain, like when she did that to him. And I say I used to deal with male victims of abuse, and actually, people forget men sometimes
Mm.
how seriously things can affect them. And just wanted to push that home a bit, and that he really felt awful. Like it was almost like, he had been, well, he had been sexually assaulted because he didn't give permission for that and he was unknowing.
Mm.
But she just was, I just thought it was a great example yet again of how oblivious she was to everything,
Mm.
how wrapped up she was in herself. So for that, Jimmy was a great character. And again, I needed something to come between her and her sister. I needed a really strong reason for her to hate her sister as much as she did, but also love her. And Jimmy, again, he was that perfect catalyst. I mean, what big, to come between friends or siblings than a man, throw a man into the mix. And she was so frivolous with him, and she really didn't care. And that was what hurt Maura the most, is the fact that she used him and she just didn't care about him. But then she had her
Yeah.
own reasons for that, because she said, well, he's a bit weird. That came out later. So yeah, for that, Jimmy ticked so many boxes. He did so much in that role, and it was, yeah, very interesting. Yeah.
You're so right. I really think what happened between Maura and Jimmy, and like you say, her nonchalant behavior around that situation really kind of actually drew the line under Maura and how she thinks and the way that she moves and the things that she is going to do to get the things
Mm.
that she needs.
Yeah.
Um, So interesting. Okay, so you talk about your potential like hyper aphantasia here. I know some of your works have been adaptated? No, adapted into TV and film. Like if The Survivors were going to be a TV show, I would picture it in my head as like a gritty BBC ITV drama. But who would you cast in these roles?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question. You've got me there. I don't know their names, so that's the problem. I'm not very good at names, but I would definitely have Irish characters in their places. I
Hmm.
know I did see your readers come up with some great suggestions as well for the characters. Yeah, my series, my Amy Winter series, it's been optioned for TV, but they keep repeating the option, so I'm hopeful that it will get on
Okay.
TV. No, you never know. Yeah, it would be absolutely brilliant that that happens. We're kind of waiting to see how it plays out. But yeah, the survivors, God, that's a good question. Because quite often when I write, I do cast my characters.
Hmm.
But this time I did it differently. I went into AI and I made up some AI generated images of
Okay.
different people, and I kind of just they looked so accurate. I put in everything about that person, just the details, what they look like, and it
Hmm.
out these images and. Yeah, they've kind of been the faces of my characters. So I don't know offhand what actors or actresses, I'm afraid. I
No, no,
couldn't.
no, that's fine. Like readers, if you can remember what your dream casts were, drop them into the chat box. One of my favorites that I saw, and I definitely can't lay credit to this because this wasn't mine. I saw it in one of our DMs, was that Maura would be Meryl Streep. Now,
Oh yeah,
obviously, she's not Irish,
yeah,
but I think Meryl Streep could probably pull it off.
yeah. I
And of
wouldn't
course,
say no.
she'd have to play Daisy as well.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I didn't think of it like that.
And I would like, what's her name? Is it Rose Leslie? Um, ginger redhead. She was in no, Game of Thrones, and also
Ah.
uh, oh my gosh, what's the TV show with Saran Jones? Oh no, it's gone from my brain. It's gone from my. Claire says that was me. She voted for Meryl Streep as Maura as well.
Hmm.
I think she could pull off that just like on the surface, you're a little bit kooky, but actually underneath, you are
Hmm.
unhinged. I think she could do that really, really well.
Yeah, she was a very layered character, Maura, and there was times where you would feel sorry for her as well. You could almost see, her reasoning for some of the things
Mm.
she's upset about. So, yeah. Oh, I'm just reading some of the comments. Yeah, some great suggestions there.
Yes, so
Oh,
Saoirse Ronan as
and
Catherine.
yeah,
Yeah.
Sarah, yeah, that I couldn't think of her name, but she was in my head as well. I thought, yeah, she'd do well. And Anne Hathaway, yeah, what a brilliant Finn she would make.
I don't know who he would play, but can we get Cillian Murphy in there somewhere too?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Maybe as like young Jimmy.
Yeah.
Right, sorry, enough of the dream cast. Oh, Jamie Dornan as Aiden. See,
Oh, yeah.
I'm sold on all of these
Yeah.
ideas.
Oh, he's brilliant.
So let's talk about some of the like brilliant tropes. And I'm always a bit hesitant to talk about tropes because I don't like the sound that they feel like used over and over again. But what you do so brilliantly is use these like markers of the genre
Hmm.
that are tropes because they're so brilliant.
Oh.
Like there's one moment where a character finds newspaper clippings
Hmm.
that kind of give us a little bit of a flashback. And I love that element of, discovering something along with the character that's found it. Are there any tropes or, elements like that where you're like, that's going to work really well here? Or are there any ones that you have like a complete aversion to?
No, I've no aversions. It's just whatever works for the story at the time.
Hmm.
Yeah, as I say, I've tried to write psychological thrillers where people don't die. I always struggle with that. I said to my friend, if I wrote or if I tried to write a romance novel, someone would die halfway through. I just wouldn't be able to help myself. Someone would end up getting murdered. So yeah, a lot of the time I will throw in a murder or something like that into it, and which yeah, it adds a lot of conflict and drama, and which is great fun for an
Hmm.
author to write about. But I do admire people who can write psych thrillers that don't have to do that equally. they can be just as interesting in the books. But I think again, it's just my police background. I just enjoy, as you say, Finn investigating. I like people who then go
Hmm.
snooping, and even the book I'm currently editing now, they're snooping and investigating and checking someone's phone, and I just love that element of it because I was very, very nosy. Well, not was, am very, very nosy person. As a police officer, I just used to love snooping and getting a good case and reading through it all. And I think, yeah, that is just reflected in my writing where any kind of trope where there's, things like that going on and people are snooping and trying not to get caught and lots of lies and secrets. Yeah, great.
Hmm. I love that. And I also love the kind of the amateur detective elements. Like I
Mm,
love following a normal person who
yeah,
doesn't know the ins and the outs of any kind of like police procedure. That because you're always you know that you're going to get in trouble.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you know that you should not be doing this and that
Mm,
someone more qualified should be doing this. But
mm,
just like the reader, the characters can never help themselves.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
always going to get into sticky situations.
Yeah, and you never know what they're going to find out as well.
Well, in one of your books, definitely. Like, I showed this picture to some of the readers earlier, and like, this is me trying to keep track of everyone. Like,
You want to
right
be
now,
in my head. That's a
judging by
fun
this book,
place.
I really, really do not want to be in your head. Like, I've got lines that are crossed through and then go, no, actually, sorry, that's Maura's grandchild, or oh, no, over here, they're actually
Yeah,
sisters, or
yeah,
something ridiculous.
yeah. I know. That's why I've got a big board full of post-it notes to keep me on track as well.
Do you ever get lost, like, in your own
Oh yeah,
track?
I do.
Like,
That's I just go back and reread it then, and I
mm-hmm,
make tons of notes. I have these big like A4 pads, and show you like one of these pads, and I've all
mm-hmm,
these little things, and I'll have one for the setting because, as you say, the setting is a character in itself, and
mm,
that's important, and the weather and places and just what's going on. So yeah, I make a lot of handwritten notes, but I type it all up in my laptop. But equally, I love to scribble. I love to make notes and then go back
mm-hmm.
and refer to them. And sometimes if I do get a bit lost halfway through, I literally go back and chapter by chapter, just look through them and make notes on each chapter so I'm back up to speed again. So yeah, it's interesting when you're trying to do two books at once as well. It's a challenge. So
God,
so you don't want to get mixed up. So I do one in the morning and one in the evening. Things like that help.
you kind of like compartmentalize your brain a little bit
Say to the
more.
characters, go away, you. I'll let these in now. That's what it feels like. Like they're in your head and you say, okay, you go away now.
Is there anything from your kind of police detective background that you wish other readers knew when you're writing a procedure like that?
Yeah, I know. I think you just have to go with the creative license. At the start, I was so determined that it all had to be right, and because in real life, DIs, if I'm talking about crime, DIs don't interview. It's the detective
Mm,
constable, which is what I was, that interview. But of course, all the books are DIs, and eventually, I had to just roll with it. I think, and I tried to work it out, and I think it's because people like DIs because they're more powerful and they like to deal with a
mm-hmm.
more powerful character that people listen to or people are a bit worried, nervous of and things like that. So I just ended up rolling with it. But yeah, a lot of the police stuff, you just have to. I'll put in little bits of authenticity, but it could be like how a uniform feels, how a stab vest
Mm-hmm.
feels, the weight of it, how it feels when you don't have time to eat that day, but you've got crumbs on your keyboard because you're working and trying to grab a sandwich at the same time. Little
Yeah.
things like that, how you'll buy your partner a packet of Maltesers from the vending machine because they haven't eaten for hours in custody, and the smells and things like that. I love adding those in. And yeah, I think especially with AI, the advent of AI writing, I think it's so important now to get those details in. And
Mm,
you don't have to be a police officer to do it. You just have to research it properly and speak to people who are, I think. And it does help. And I think readers appreciate that too. So I think that side of it is important. It doesn't have to be, the paperwork side of it doesn't have to be accurate because you can't
mm-hmm.
wait 3 months for test results to come back or things like that. You have to use that. But the little nitty-gritty things of how they feel, how officers feel at the end of the day,
Mm,
that is gold. And I think it's important to remember that they're human as well and they have families at home. And I always tend to put in a little bit of romance between the characters. And I know it's not for everyone, but it's real life. It's real
yeah.
life. So that's also something I tend to put in, not in a Mills and Boone way, but just in a realistic way.
Well, no,
So
you're so right. Like you say, when people are considering, playing with AI on a kind of brainstorming level, that's not something that an AI is going to be able to magic up for you
no,
because that's real life lived
yeah.
experience of actually living in that world.
Mm,
And actually, another one of my favorite authors, Claire McIntosh, quite
mm,
often talks about her previous experience
mm,
from the police. And when she writes her books, she always likes to edit out the kind of police tropes that have been made up that don't necessarily happen so much in real life. And the one thing that
mm.
I remember she always talks about is how everybody seems to call everybody by their last name.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And now I look for that in other like
That's
police
funny,
dramas or
isn't
anything
it?
like that.
Yeah, it's funny. In my books, they do call each other by their last name. I think it depends on your own experiences.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, where I worked, we did do that a lot, and
Hmm.
had nicknames, and yeah, there's some first names, but the probationers always used to call them Sergeant this and Sergeant that. And I remember my sergeant saying, "Oh, I love a probationer. They always call me Sergeant," or nobody else did, things like that. But yeah, it's down to personal preferences. I don't think the readers mind too much either way, as long as the story is good.
No, for sure. For me, it's the authenticity plus the magic of the plot that makes it sing. That's the
Mm.
best bits. Are there any TV shows or films that you watch and you go, oh, that's actually the most accurate representation?
Oh, 24 hours in police custody because it's real.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
that's another thing that authors should do is watch stuff like that. It's just
sure.
gold. It's so good. I love watching the real ones. The TV ones, yeah, I don't really watch that much crime on TV because I just talk through it. And I'm showing
Hmm.
my age here, but when I first met my husband, he used to love The Bill. I don't know if you remember, it's a very
Oh my
old,
gosh, the
yeah.
bill.
And I'd be giving out the whole way, and my husband, give up. I'm not going to watch this anymore because you're just talking the whole way through it. But I've slowly come to understand. And you talked about Grey's Anatomy earlier, and I thought it was very interesting when I looked into it because I was a huge Grey's Anatomy fan. But did I care about the actual medical procedure? No, I just
No.
wanted to be entertained. And that's the way I look at it with regards police procedure as well. People just want to be entertained. But as long as the characters are, realistic, then I think, yeah, it's good.
You're so right. Like Shah, who's working behind the scenes for us tonight, and myself, we are watching Grey's Anatomy. And I could probably tell you some steps of how to
Yeah.
do an appendectomy, but
Yeah.
realistically, what I'm here
Yeah.
for is
Yeah.
Meredith and,
Yeah.
this intern and that intern, what's happening. So yeah, you're so
Exactly.
right. And then of course you've got TV shows like Line of Duty, which are just absolutely out the other end of
Yeah.
okay, so if you're not watching TV, then you must be, and of course you're an author, so you must be an absolutely massive reader.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Do
love
you
it.
read within genre, or is that a
Um,
strict rule that you don't
It's
do
actually
that?
more audiobooks. I mean, I'm currently reading, actually, I thought you might ask me. So I've got my book here. It's Lisa Jewell. I love Lisa Jewell.
Mm,
None of This Is True is this one. So it's not her latest one. It's just one that I looked at. I thought, oh, I've not read that yet. So I'm reading that. But also I'm a massive audiobook reader because sometimes when I work so hard on my own books and I'm editing, I get a bit tired reading. So I'll just listen to an audiobook. And Stephen
yeah.
King is my go-to. I just love Stephen King. I'm just massive Stephen King fan. And yeah, I can't talk about him enough because I geek out. So yeah, I'm listening
Okay,
to
in
books at the moment.
that case, I, regularly profess that I'm kind of crime and thriller go-to recommender, but I've
Mm.
not read a single Stephen King book. Which one should I start
Oh.
with?
Well,
Where do I
start with
start?
Mr. Mercedes. Mr. Mercedes is crime. He does
Okay.
write some crime books. And Holly Gibney is a brilliant detective. Well, she's not, yeah, well, she is private detective character who's so much fun to read. So, yeah, Mr. Mercedes is a good book. He does write some crime novels. If you don't
Hmm.
like horror, you
I can
can
I
go
can
on to his
definitely
other
go
stuff.
horror. I could definitely go horror.
I think it's Some Like It Darker is his one at the moment that I'm listening to, and it's so good as well. But that's not really, yeah, You Like It Darker, that's it. But yeah, I'd start with Mr. Mercedes. It's just his characterization is so good. I always
Hmm.
write better when I read as well. I always say that to people who are writing. Read lots, read poetry, read as much as you can. I love poetry. I love things like Dracula. I love the old classics,
Hmm.
Frankenstein. I think you have to read widely to really be inspired as an author.
Mm. So the Lisa Jewell book that you're reading is potentially one of my favorite
Mhm.
Lisa Jewell books.
Yeah.
I would also say I think it's the darkest.
Lovely.
Lisa Jewell book that she's ever written. And we were actually lucky enough to work on it. So because you love your audiobooks, if you skip to the very back of the book, there's a QR code and it links you
Ah,
to the actual podcast that Alex is making in the book.
right. Brilliant.
So that's huge fun.
Mm.
There's that's such a big deal at the moment is like podcast thrillers. That seems to be the new kind of like armchair detective is
Mm.
a podcast thriller.
Yeah, true crime is huge. I had a true crime YouTube channel and it was growing and growing in popularity, and it was doing really well. And I found it fascinating because I'd investigate true crimes, true crime detective. I mean, it's still there, but I had to stop because the amount of messages I was getting was a bit scary. And
Oh,
the people,
really?
oh, there was some like, oh, they're just a little bit scary. And I thought, oh no, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to step away very quickly now because, yeah, I just got a lot of very strange messages asking me where I lived and stuff. And yeah, but if I'd investigate their own case and sending me weird pictures. And in the end, I just thought, you know what, I'm just, no. And I
No.
know of other true crimers who on YouTube who had to take their kids out of school, who had to move home, who were stalked. And I thought, I don't want that to be me. So, as much as I
Gosh.
enjoyed it, also I had a lot of nightmares, which wasn't good
Yeah.
because you're immersed in that all the time. So, yeah, but it was very interesting to do because it is a great insight into that world as well.
Gosh, Caroline, I didn't know that about you. I thought I'd done my research effectively, but the fact that you had this like tangent into true
Uh,
crime
yeah, I do these little
YouTubership.
tangents all the time. As I say, I've got a short attention span. I'm always trying out different things just for fun.
Okay, so what would like Stephen King, obviously you're a huge fan. What would you say
Yeah.
is the best crime thriller book that you think ticks all the boxes of what a crime thriller should be?
Angela Marsden's is an absolute genius in
Hmm.
crime thrillers, and Mel Sherratt again, two lovely authors. I love their work. I'm a big fan. They nail it. You know, Mel used to work as a housing officer, and she knows that world like I do. She was one of the first
Hmm.
crime authors I met, and she was so great. And Angela again, her characters, her love of the Black Country, yeah, they're great crime writers. Really, really good.
People in the comments are also agreeing with you. Lots of love for Angela
Yeah,
Marston's for sure.
yeah, and lovely people as well, which also helps. So.
You know what? I would say crime and thriller writers are actually some of the friendliest people that I've met. Like across genre, they do seem to be the nicest people, and I wonder if it's because they get all of their like badness out in the
Could be.
books.
Yeah, we better keep writing, or God knows what would happen to us if it didn't
Well,
all come
exactly. You
out.
start murdering all of your friends.
Funny, actually, because I think at the start, I think that you're right. Because when I started writing, I had been to my one of my first jobs as a probationer was a stabbing, and he was stabbed and he died in my arms. And I think I started writing just as to get it out, just to
Hmm.
deal with the trauma of everything. Because I was a mom, I was in my 40s and I've been bombarded by all these experiences. And I was from a little village in Ireland, and it's like, gosh, how do you deal with this? You know, and go
Yeah.
home to your children and forget about it. And I think going home and just writing was my way of getting it out. And I know someone asking the questions that, you know, are your characters deal based on people you're dead with. I
Yeah.
think little pieces, it's like a tapestry, not one person, which I would never,
Mm.
that would be disrespectful, but little pieces of people I've met, you know, victims and people I've dealt with, little tiny little sprinklings. And it's always done in a respectful way. But I honestly think I started writing, yeah, as therapy.
Hmm.
And it's been great ever since.
I think that should maybe be like required for anyone in the police or anyone who's dealing with that kind of trauma. There should be some kind of
Way of getting it out, yeah.
like a backup system
Mm.
exercises.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and working out, that is really good as well.
So listen, we are coming towards the end. So readers, if you have any questions that I haven't managed to delve into, please do throw them into the box, and I will try and get them to Caroline before we end. Before we do, I wanted to ask you about like location crime, but in a quite specific way. So obviously, like the more books that are written, there are more subgenres and subplots to celebrate as we kind of go on. And the more and more I'm seeing these like named subgenres pop up, like outback noir or domestic noir or urban this, that, and the other or whatever. And something that I came across the other day was shamrock noir. which was something that I have never heard of before.
No, I've not heard of that. Sounds interesting though.
But obviously, you write books where you know you've written loads in
Yeah,
Ireland, you're now writing in Lincoln where you live.
yeah.
Are there any things that you would say, okay, well, if Shamrock Noir were a thing, I mean, I think we need to come up for a better name for it, but
I think so.
if it were a thing, what markers or genre tropes would you say you'd go, oh yeah, okay, that would make Irish noir, Irish crime thriller fiction?
Gosh, I don't know. I didn't even know Shamrock Noir was a thing.
I mean, I was surprised. I saw
It
it on the
sounds a bit
internet and I
cozy
was like,
crime, doesn't it? Perhaps it doesn't sound very
it
brutal. It
doesn't
sounds quite
sound dark
cozy.
enough.
Yeah, maybe Father Murphy in the local church, solves all the crime from the inept police officers who don't know how to do their jobs.
I don't know if
Yeah, I would
Catherine's
love-
family would be on board with
Um,
falling under Shamrock Noir. I think they would have
yeah.
specific
Oh,
feelings.
I'd
That's
love
not.
to write them. Yeah, that would be good as a spin-off. That would be a lot of fun to write about her family. Yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
Yeah, I could see her coming into her own, Catherine, and yeah, that would be good actually in Ireland. Be quite fun to write.
Okay, so two last questions. One actually about the last reveal for Catherine. I feel like whenever there are DNA tests involved in fiction, we're always hanging on
Mm.
that final answer. And we get the final answer. And then, of course, like 5 pages later, we get the actual answer. I feel like that was like the perfect tying up of a bow for the end of the book. Like, again, I feel like I'm just asking you to explain all of your reveals, but was the manipulation of Catherine via her parents, was that always going to be kind of Catherine's lot, as it
Yeah.
were?
Yeah, that was always going to be the way. And I really wanted to give a really satisfying ending. And I thought that by having that almost double ending there, it really tied it up nicely because then you see Catherine. I liked it when she went to her ex that he wasn't
Mm,
going to be too upset because he was getting on with his life and he wasn't wheelchair bound as she thought. So I thought
yeah.
that gave it a nice little ending for him because he was ultimately a good person. And then she became director, so that gave her a decent enough ending, that she could get on with her life. And I just thought, yeah, you know what? I'll put everyone in their own little boxes now and they're happy enough, except for poor Almora, who's in prison or in a unit mental facility, I think. But
I
yeah,
think the safest place for her,
yeah, I think
really.
she was. She needed help, bless her, but she might get out one day. You never know. But,
Oh God, The Survivors 2.0.
yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to give that double, just to give everyone the ending, even Catherine's mother, just to show her
Hmm.
in that light as well, that she did have a little bit of compassion, and that
Yes.
we wanted to give her some money and sort her out and say, look, if there's anything you need, I'm there for you, and she would be. So yeah, I just love a nice happy ending that I'm happy with as well, because I hate reading
Hmm.
a book that ends abruptly. That drives me nuts, or watching a program that ends really abruptly. And I almost want to write fan fiction chapter to give them all the ending they need, just to satisfy it for myself. So yeah, that was just in the hope that everybody walked away from the story with their ending, and I think that did that.
I feel like that would be a brilliant writing exercise. If you're ever like blocked or anything like that,
Yeah,
rewriting the ending of a book that you loved would be great.
yeah, yeah.
But yes, what was I just going to say? I was just going to say something else about Catherine, but I got distracted by a question in the box. Um, no, it's gone. Fine, I'll come back to it. Amy says, across all of your books, who is your favorite character that you have written, and which book are they from?
I loved actually Amy Winter. She was my
Hmm.
favorite because my career really took off with her. I owe Amy Winter a lot. She became a New York Times bestseller, both in the US. Well, that was in the US, but she got to number one in the US and the UK and Australia. I owe a lot to Amy Winter, and I really loved writing her. And her parents were serial killers. I was making this detective, and I thought, what's the worst thing I can throw at her? I know her
Hmm.
parents are serial killers. So yeah, that is my favorite detective. Yeah, Amy Winter. Love that.
And she's DI, right? So she's Big
Yeah,
Boss.
yeah, tough cookie.
And then last question, I promise, with Claire. So Claire says, are you writing a book at the moment? Is there anything you can tell us about? So you've said that you are editing the Aaliyah Baker books right now. Is that right?
Yes, yes,
And
very,
I
very excited about that.
think I read, and I'm so excited about this, is that they might have a slight Nordic noir. or like
Yes.
quite like Scandi lilt to them.
Yeah, well, is from Finland. My brother actually moved to Finland a few years ago, and I did so much research on it. I thought, wow, that's a really interesting. The people are very interesting as well. And when I wanted to come up with a really interesting character, I thought, oh, I know, I'll make her Finnish. And she
Hmm.
comes to the UK. There's a lot of dynamic characters. The book is called The Ice Angels. Yes, I had to think. I had to think there for a minute. I've got so
Got
many
such a
books.
long backlist.
The Ice Angels, yes. And yeah, it's very, there's links between Finland and the UK. There's similar cases happening in the UK. And then she finds this big link and everything changes. And there's lots of twists and turns. So, and it's going to be published at Penguin, which I'm so excited about. So yeah, that's going to be good.
Huge congratulations for that. That feels
Thank
like a
you.
massive milestone.
It's a dream come true. I've wanted to write for Penguin, yeah, for as long as, I was used to read books in my library as a child in Ireland.
Hmm.
So yeah, my agent's been amazing in getting me that deal, and my new editor is superstar. So I'm very fortunate.
Good. I'm so glad. Okay, so as I've said, The Survivors, huge, massive recommendation from pretty much all of us at Tandem, readers and team members alike. Where do I go next? Like, if I want something as twisty and as dark from your backlist, where?
The Islanders is very, very
Okay.
similar. It's the previous one to that. I was looking to see if I had it on my shelf, but it's called The Islanders. There, that's the one I was just talking about to you before we went on air. There's a twist so big at the end. I had to write a little note just to explain how it could happen because I think it's the biggest twist I've ever written. It was my 20th book, and I thought I have to really pull something out with this book.
Hmm.
So, yes, massive twist. So I'd like to see if readers can pick that up along the way. But The Islanders is quite in the same vein as The Survivors. And then before that, The Village. It's like three books with Thomas and Mercer: The Village,
Hmm.
The Islanders, The Survivors. So they're all in the same thread.
Okay, right, sold. That's my kind of like betwixtmas reading. I'd looked at the villagers. I was like, oh, that one looks really interesting. The village looks great.
Thank you. Yeah, that again, yeah, funny enough, that had a big twist in it as well. Sensing a theme here.
Honestly, like I asked you the
Yeah.
question earlier, do you think that you need a big kind of twist reveal for it to be a great crime thriller? And I don't think it has to be have a reveal to be a great crime thriller, but for me personally to really, really love it, I
Mm.
do think I need a
Yeah.
twist.
Because it's so much fun reading about the fallout as well, especially if you get twists along the way, then something big is going to happen, the fallout of it, and that's just as enjoyable to read about to me.
You're so right. Okay, I promise you, last question, and I will let you go. What would you say is your favorite twist that in you, don't tell me what the twist is, but in a book that you've read that you've gone,
Yeah.
oh
Oh,
my God, it's that.
The Islanders, yeah, because that is the
Okay.
biggest twist. Oh, so much fun. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great.
I can't say anything about it, but
No, no,
yeah.
no. Don't tell me anything. Okay, great. Loads of people in the chat box saying that they're going to pick these books up. Sharon, Claire, Stacey, awesome.
Thank you.
Caroline, thank you so much for coming to hang out with us this evening. We will be diving into the backlist, so I'm sure that you will hear from all of our readers tagging you in their thoughts on
Oh,
Instagram.
I just want to thank you. You've been absolutely brilliant, and everyone at Tandem and the readers. Oh my gosh, it's been so much fun watching it on Instagram and on social media. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate my readers, and I appreciate you spreading the word because I'm so lucky to get to do what I do.
We're lucky to read the books. Honestly, Caroline, thank you so much for sharing them with us.
Great, thanks.
Thanks so much. See you later.
Yes, bye.